Hello my friends, Jacob's here one more time. Hope you're all buckled up for this one, because I'm about to share something that I've never shared on here before about my experience being the head writer for Joni Lamb's talk show, The Joni Show, which later became Table Talk. Did this for about 7 years or so until I was asked to, I was told, you're gone. And I had until July 20th to, sign those papers. And it was a hard time because at the time, my wife, we were about to have a baby, and we just got, a new house because I had custody of my 2 children. And which is why that this whole story, which by the way, if you haven't heard about it, you're living under a rock, right? This, I don't even know who this Julie Royce was. I know a lot about her now. I did a little bit of digging into her. Oh, she's a pill. But her big article, which no real big time reputable, I don't know why the Jonathan and Susie Lamb went to this Christian watchdog reporter I don't know why she didn't go to like the New York Times or a bigger organization. Maybe by the end of this show you'll understand why. But they released this huge expose which has caught fire. Former Daystar executive and Weiss accused Joni Lamb of covering up daughters' sex abuse. She was like 5 years old. Now, why is this so? Why does this affect me so much? Well, you might wonder how and why I got custody of my children, and you might learn that I went through something pretty awful. Danielle too, that we dealt with our girl, who is now like super successful. Very, just like one of the top medical universities in all of New York, honor student, beautiful, has a great boyfriend. I'm doing this on Thanksgiving right now before we go downstairs. You want to talk about being thankful. How thankful I am for so much. And one of the reasons why she's gone on to be so successful and so confident and so strong and wonderful and kind and compassionate and like everything that you'd want in a daughter, my daughter, regardless of what her and her older brother went through a long time ago, which we were told because, the very first thing that happened when, it was very clear, that there was, something really awful going on. I have a lot of information that, I'm never gonna share about that time, but let's just say that it was heartbreaking. And one of the very first things we did obviously was we contacted Child Protective Services. First thing, we got a medical exam. First thing, it was like the first thing we did. First thing we did was we got the people that knew what they were doing involved with this, got in touch with the top forensic evaluator in New York, who specifically deals with this. And do you know what she told me? The best thing that I could do now that this monster was out of their lives and would never be around and never to worry about. And by the way, God took care of all that. You don't got to worry about. I had like old friends calling me up who knew the story that we're involved with kooky people. They were like, let's go down there with a baseball bat. I'm like, no, we're going to leave it to the Lord. We're going to let the Lord handle it. And believe me, the Lord handled it. This guy, this monster is gone. It was the most horrible time. I felt so helpless, and it was so painful. And, to hear this story now being broadcast, it troubles me. You know why it troubles me? Because we were told very, very clearly that the best thing you could do for your daughter would be to leave it at that. Like, we could have prosecuted, we've got this guy, we could have done a bunch of stuff, right? We had ample, evidence of what we could do, but to do that would have taken at least a year of investigation, and she would have to relive it, and she'd have to go through it. And we were hoping that maybe nothing happened. Maybe there was I mean, we knew abuse was happening, but maybe it wasn't that kind of abuse. This is what we prayed and we'd hoped for. So, we did what we thought was right. We most certainly didn't bring it and air it and share it all over the internet, which I think is pretty interesting to me, that you have so many of these YouTubers. And by the way, I'm not like going to let Joni Lamb and the Daystar television network get off scot-free here. I'm going to spill some tea too. It's all good. The truth is an important thing. And I think that God's given us an opportunity for all of us to reconcile. It's crazy. It's 12 years from when I signed that paper. July 20th, that was when my accident happened, where I have the nonstop tinnitus, that is, and I lost high frequency hearing. My life has literally been changed and so much harder. 12 years. I said, my goodness gracious, there's got to be God's hand in this for a reason. I loved my job there. I loved the family. I knew Jonathan well. I did these little cute little videos, these little lamb videos where they were moving into the new building. You see what God did was when I went out there, I was in wrestling. I wrote for WWE. Never made a ton of money. I did all right. I think when I left there, it was like maybe 125, 150,000 at the peak, and I was the top writer, and they were the top show. And the reason why I ended up getting a job at Daystar, because Marcus was such a fan of wrestling. Such a fan of wrestling. But I ended up at Daystar because I knew God had a plan for me. And so I just sent an email out to, at the time it was like TBN. Somehow it got rerouted to the man that would become my very best friend, him and another man named Justin, who these two, they were like my younger brothers. I love them so much. I actually even memorialized them in my novel. They were the orderlies actually in the institution. They're central pivotal characters in my story. My best friends. Never really had friends. Still don't to this day. I loved working there. But there was a lot of, listen, when I got the job there, when I first came in, it was, there was a lot, I think there was a lot of maybe a little jealousy from like the top producer. And there was a little like, and I remember feeling a little bit like, oh, they don't like me, like not Marcus and Joni. They were willing to, bring me in and try me out and see how it goes. They gave me like 3 months. And I took a pay cut because I wanted it so bad. I didn't ask for a lot of money. I just asked for, and they gave me what I asked for. And it was probably my favorite job of all time was working there. I got to see so many of my dreams come true. Captain Macaroni, the cartoon that I always wanted to write. And which by the way, I think that they should do something with it because it's an amazing property and it's an amazing story. And today we need better stories. But this story that's going on right now of this family rift, which, you have every YouTuber that considers themselves, Christian, or whatever, like just attacking and calling them all sorts of stuff. And I'm telling you, none of them looked into this. None of them looked into it fully enough. Not because, I'm not saying that maybe there were some issues between the daughter-in-law and everything else. A lot of stuff was revealed. It seemed like they got along great. Seemed like, Joni kind of really took a shine to Jonathan's wife, Susie. I know how much, I can tell you one thing, I know how much Joni loved her family. That was what I liked. I was never really a huge fan of Marcus, to be honest. I felt it was a little bit high on himself. I didn't like him. I'll be honest. I didn't like him. I did like Joni very much, and I did love the team. But there was a lot of nonsense. Like my first job, I was given my first bit to do. They gave me like the absolute worst editor. I remember this, and they gave me like a very little bit of time, and I had this thing that had to do with a soldier being baptized. And I remember I put it together and I really prayed because I was like, oh Lord, I don't know the system. I don't know this guy. It's like they're looking for me. I felt like they were looking for me to fail. Not Joni and them, but the producer that was there, because there was probably a little bit of jealousy or whatever. And my goodness, if God didn't, I did one of my poems in it. I'll never forget. The first time I ever aired one of my poems, they probably never had anybody had poetry on Christian TV. But God placed me there. This nobody. placed me there, top writer for, the number one show, WWE. Then, you got to leave. It always happens that way. Then I'm like the top writer for like the largest, well, they weren't the largest at the time. In fact, I think they had a footprint of about 300,000 when I first came there. And then it was like very quickly that they became like the biggest. Then they had like a network in Israel, and they were moving into this new building, which is when I did all of these really cute, like they were just such beautiful kids. I think they did such a great job with these children, Rebecca, Rachel, and Jonathan. They were like my favorite people. I loved the work. We did like a trilogy where we were kind of leading up to it. And I think, what would be really kind of cool is if maybe Daystar gets a chance to re-air that stuff. So this family can remember what they once had and what they can have again, and even better so. Especially with everything that I've looked at and everything that I've read. It seems to me very clearly that there's a lot of like, maybe. And there's a lot of other stuff that seems very, very, look, families, right? You have issues with families. Mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. Listen, I didn't talk to my mom, and who I love, who gave up everything for me, had me when she's 19 years old. Who does that? Had dropped out of school, got a GED. But we had issues. She didn't like me going to work for Christian TV. She didn't like the fact that when I sold my house, that I gave 10% of it to, this church, because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do, And I got to tell you, to this day, that pastor, still a friend of mine, talked to him yesterday, because I didn't know if I should do this video. Because, unlike every person who's jumping on screw them, Daystar people, they're covering up for, it's monstrous. They're using that word that starts with the P and ends with the O. 4 letters. They're using that word and they're throwing it at people. And man, it's like, oh God, let me help and let me call timeout. Let me call timeout. But listen, I told you all, right? Didn't I tell you all that this was coming? Remember when I felt weird about that whip thing? Wayne sent me over this whip video, and then the night before I was watching something and a guy was teaching somebody how to use the whip, and I thought it was odd, and then here's the voice of 2 or 3 witnesses, and then The Chosen comes out with their poster, and it's a whip. And I said the money changers tables. I'm not calling Daystar the money changers, and I'm not calling them that, but it is epic that like this is going down at the same time. You got stuff with TD Jakes, same time. Maybe it's just a check, because none of us are perfect, right? I'm not perfect, I'm trying to be better. I'm always trying to be better, especially with how I react to people online. Like I want to just bop some people in the nose sometimes. I really have a strong dislike for the duping delight that is going on, where people are so excited to see the downfall of this woman who, by the way, who fired me. Let's be clear, okay? I'm not doing them any favors. I was angry for a while. But then a couple of years ago, when I heard about Marcus passing, which is strange because, when I was losing my job, I did this video. I did this video called The Fall of Saul. And it was like 13 years ago. It was right around the time I was about to be fired, and I knew I was going to be fired. So it was very clear that it was coming, and I had the baby on the way, and I was in the new house, and I felt like, oh, screw them! Why are you doing this to me? Because I think the reason why, to be honest, if you want to know why, is I have these weird dreams sometimes, and we used to have these little morning devotions, and I had this dream, and I told everybody something huge is going to be revealed, something terrible, and it's going to shake the very foundation of Daystar. And then I pointed out the fact that they had these cracks in the studio floor that they would have to always laminate over because otherwise it would be bumpy. And I said, you look at there's cracks in the floor, and you keep covering it up. I said it needs to be broken apart completely. I think that's being done now. And repoured. What a chance and an opportunity the Lamb family has to be an example of how you could be at total odds with each other, where you're accusing people of horrible things, which, by the way, as I said, police report right away, medical exam right away, CPS thorough investigation right away. And not reopen it later when you got a bunch of stuff going on. And And certainly not, because here's the thing. Like, I think they should have left the whole thing with their daughter out of this. I think they really should have. Because it seems to me like today everybody's talking about Joni's the voice to God. Because this guy, Jimmy Evans, who she brought in, I listened to the whole thing, by the way. If anybody listens with ears to hear, you can actually hear that Joni's devastated. I don't care what anybody says. And yes, she gets mad. Guess what? I got mad once. I was pulled into her office once because the producers were messing with me. I said, they're a den of vipers. And Joni was like, oh, a den of vipers, huh? Oh, really? Tell me more about that. And then I said, can I go to the bathroom? It's a true story. Went into the bathroom. I was like, Lord, help me here. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. You know, when you're young, you're dumb. You know, when I had the vibe that they were going to let me go, I actually even wrote this like stupidly long email to them. It was like petty stuff, you know, but it was really me. Like, I was fearful that I was going to lose my job. I was fearful, and I loved my job, you know, and I was fearful, and I was acting out of a little bit of fear. And there was truth in the things that I wrote as well. This was right around the time when it was revealed, go figure, after me saying something shocking is going to be revealed. And then, like, what was it, like a week later or whatever, it was revealed that, you know, Marcus was having like a very, very intense relationship with someone Joni was like best friends with. You want to talk about like humiliating. People found out about it, and then they decided to, let's bring that to light. You know, they did the whole, it's, you know, spiritual abuse, and it's this, that, and the other thing. And I'm sure that they were treated poorly, and I'm sure they felt like, Joni and them felt like they were being treated poorly. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even involved. Just people that I knew and I worked with closely were. And I just happened to have a weird dream and said some stupid things, not thinking. I would have never thought that. But then here we are. But, you know, Joni, what she did was, like, people forget this, right? Humiliated. They went on Dr. Phil. How humiliating to go on Dr. Phil, you know? It's because it's Dr. Phil. No, I'm just kidding. Dr. Phil's all right, I guess. I don't think he's like the kind of doctor that you think, though. It was around that time, and, you know, there was a huge lawsuit going on, I guess. And in the end, you know, I don't know what went of it, you know? I have no idea. I was just too concerned with losing my job and providing for my family. I didn't get involved in any of that stuff. If I found out that Marcus was cheating on his wife, you know what I would have done? And I'm not like condemning anybody else because I don't know their experience. I would have went and told Joni. I said, Joni, this is going on. Don't fire me, all right? You guys work this out. This is your personal business. It's obviously pretty poor and terrible that you're like the head of the largest Christian network and Marcus is doing this stuff. And now Marcus is gone, right? Now Marcus is gone. It's just really, the whole thing is just heartbreaking. But they kept it together. She worked at it. They built a relationship together. She tried to hold the family together, and then Marcus dies. Biggest critic of the virus of the crown, and he dies of the virus of the crown. This all is, to me, this is like biblical. I mean, it's the largest Christian network in the world, right? Little old Jacob who goes for nothing. How did I end up in these positions where now here I am, and I'm coming to defense of the very people that, you know, they let me go. But let me tell you something else that they did, because I don't want to be like, you know, all sourpuss. I was living in New York. I just got custody of my children. Do you know they gave me an extra $3,000? A guy named Alan called me up. Nice guy. He secretly, I broke the arm of somebody when I was arm wrestling him. And, you know, he was like, you can't do that. You're going to be in trouble. And I was worried I was going to lose my job. But he's like, you know, I was good at arm wrestling once. Alan was a nice guy. He was funny. But he reached out to me and he said, look, you know, Joni and Marcus want to help. They want to help. Because it was devastating. Once I left Daystar, my first wife, she divorced me. She left. And it was a very difficult time. And then, you know, the wrong person got involved. And thankfully, you know, me and my ex, who's awesome. I mean, awesome, loves the children. Really, everything happens for a reason, right? The only bad guy in this situation was the guy that weaseled his way in and did some horrible things. And he ended up paying dearly for it. But once again, my daughter doesn't know anything about it. You know, she has like ideas. You know, they don't know. I could break out like the stuff and show them like the bruises and this. I mean, it was horrible. So before anybody goes on here and says, "Oh, you're covering up for, you know, the people that are covering up such," maybe you should look at the whole story. Maybe you should take a look at the police report. You know, when it was first filed. You know, when it was first filed. Maybe you should look at it like the second. Maybe you should see the fact that it was like unfounded. Okay? Maybe the fact that the young girl couldn't recognize the person, and it's very clear by the reporting who this person is. All right? It's very clear. Now this guy, whether he did something or not, I don't know. Okay? I was willing to believe that it was a possibility, but I got a vibe. I said, this is a daughter-in-law thing. This is what I felt immediately. This is what I felt. True story. I reached out to Joni, which I don't normally do. And I said, you know, I'm really sorry to hear about what's going on with your family. It sounds to me like a family issue. And I wanted to just let her know, and I want them to know, because they're probably watching too. You all can get past this. You could put this back together. You can make this die so it doesn't live on in the internet forever. I really loved them, and I loved working there. I'm really good at what I do. I'm a great writer. Joni actually gave me a review for my book, you know? And, you know, with all the stuff that went down, I was a jerk off. I sent this letter, and then they flew me out, and I was like, I'm sorry, my tummy hurts, because at the time I was going through some issues with my stomach. I'm like, it doesn't work for me to fly out now. How about in like a couple of weeks? I was like milking them. I just didn't want to lose my job. I'm like, please keep me. I'll do anything, you know? But man, they've been through a lot. You know, and God didn't want me there. He wanted me to become the best mattress salesman of all time. And he wanted me to build my YouTube channel, which is right now, right here. Look at all of you. All of you watching. 205,000 subscribers, followers. My novel, it's like, you know, Amazon was like a new release bestseller, you know, over thousands of reviews, like the best book ever. You should read it. Especially if you want to, you know, see my two best friends playing two of the characters in there. And it's a really good book. I thought to myself before I came on here, I wasn't going to do the plug, but you know what? I could use the help. All right. I'm not like these other, you know, YouTube channels, these Christian YouTube channels they come out with the pitchforks and everything else. I'm not like them. I'm not like them, ready to, you know, just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm like, I want to, you know, before you speak, you should present it in a way like, okay, I heard about it the first day. Then it was like the next day, she's like, Susie Lamb, she was assaulted by a chiropractor. And it was like, maybe that happened, maybe. But then you look into the story and you find out she didn't realize until later she was. The assistant that was in the room wasn't there. And then you learn, oh, this chiropractor was going to her house for adjustments. And now I'm not saying anything by that because I'm sure Jonathan was there and it was probably, you know, totally on the up and up. And I'm not saying anything about that. But what I'm saying is, I heard from somebody that was also fired that, you know, they were looking really for an excuse to get rid of this guy anyway, you know? But it was like, they could have come out with just that. And that would have been huge news. Why did you bring your daughter into it? Why did you do that? It's on the internet now. It lives forever. And everybody's covering this. Everybody's covering this. And they're like, you're so brave. And you know what? You are brave if and only if you're doing what's right for your child and not because you're angry and you're trying to hurt the people that you're blaming for why you're angry. This whole voice of God stuff. I gotta talk about this voice of God stuff because it's interesting. Because back in 2022, remember I did the whole show where we talked about Vox Populi, Vox Dei, which with Elon, and, the voice of the people is the voice of God. We just did a show called Resist the Current Thing, about how you can't follow after the lies of the world. This is the day we're in where the enemy, the dragon, he floods the earth with what? What does the father of all lies flood the earth with? Lies. Lies everywhere you go. So the Christ child that's in you is gone. How many people are swallowing up this story and then regurgitating it like it's true? Is it true? God God knows. But the more you look into the story, like why on earth doesn't this girl know who this guy is? I heard that there was something that happened at the school. And it's very clear because Susie has said that something did happen at the school. But Rachel Lamb, which by the way, you could follow her. She's on X. Probably on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram. They censor me too much over there, which makes no sense. But the other channels that are quick to bring in the pitchforks, the other channels are they're quick to say all sorts of horrible things without thinking about this family that is devastated right now. Devastated. People forget Joni's a widow. Okay, she didn't come from privilege. I mean, they built that place together. Jonathan, he, sweet guy, he used to come into my office. I remember one time he helped me write a letter. I think he was like asking a girl to a dance or something. He wanted me to write a letter for this, Hope I'm not getting anybody in trouble, Jonathan. You were young if you're watching. But I loved them. I love them all. I think what they're doing is wrong. I think it's not right what they're doing for their child. And I think that there's a lot of questions that aren't being asked. I think there's a reason why a lot of major pastors and everything else aren't even talking about this, which blows my mind. Daystar, which hasn't ever put me on, hasn't ever promoted my work. I know how much I have to offer. I know what I share, and I know that God is behind everything that I say and I do. Not that I'm the voice of God, which is now a thing. It's strange. This whole thing, with Jimmy Emmons coming in. They refused to read out. Can you imagine? All right? Can you imagine your mother who loves you? You want to talk about, it's biblical, it's not biblical. Honor your mother and father, right? Honor your mother and father. That's one of those things that you're supposed to do. Completely dishonored her. Completely dishonored her. On probably what was one of their live shows, where a viewer, wrote in and was saying, I'm really happy for you, Joan. I'm happy that that you're happy. I love Doug. I love the family. I'm so happy for you. And they get the thing. They're getting paid from their mother that built this channel, and they're like, no, I'm not going to read this. I refuse. Come on, man. Your mother has been through a lot of crap. She has been attacked by, I saw her attacked by a lot of people. I'm not sticking up for her. I'm not thinking that she's perfect in anything she does. None of us are perfect. God put me there for a reason. I was her head writer for a reason. A reason. And then here I am now, person who was fired, let go. I gave him a hard time. Listen, to be honest, I gave him a hard time. If you were to ask, you'd be like, yeah, Jacob was a jerk off. He was a jerk. I was, because I was angry, and I felt a little self-righteous too. Maybe I was around their age, but I wasn't going to go public. I wasn't going to sue them like the other people were suing them. They gave me an amazing opportunity. They helped me get my kids back, But what am I going to do? Look, God moves us into things and he moves us out. So now here I am, years later, the only one on YouTube who's willing to stand up and say, you know what? What an opportunity Daystar has. What an opportunity the Lamb family has. I think Joni this is my feeling. I think Joni and Susie, if you're listening, I think you should really pray on this. I think you were taken advantage by this, I don't even know who she is, Julie Royce or whatever is her name. Unscrupulous past. Not even going to get into it. You guys can just Google her and look her up to see what a crack reporter she is. I'm a watchdog for the Christians. Give me a break, these people. You know what I do every day when I'm online? I encourage people. You know what I do every time I come online? I call people out all the time. And you know what I do? Leave them the benefit of the doubt. Russell Brand wants to talk about Jesus all the time with his shirt off in front of the all-seeing Illuminati eye. Okay, fine. He wants to baptize people in his underwear. I think it's sus. I don't think he's sincere. But what do I know? Right? What do I know? What do I know? I'm just a meatball. I'm a meatball who witnessed Joni Lamb and this family for a long time. so horrible what's happening to them. So horrible what's happening. I was talking to my pastor. I called him up. You know, the one that I gave $10,000 to when I moved down there. It's nuts. Nuts. I did like that church. Until, of course, you know, I brought my son in, and the lady that was supposed to watch him spanked him. And that was a quick wake-up call about how different Texas life is from Long Island life. Yeah. Don't touch my kids. You don't touch my kids. I'm very protective of my kids. Single father, raising them on my own. That's why I don't understand why they would do this. Because just with the whole chiropractor abuse thing, that alone, that's huge. That probably would have ran. The whole thing with Jimmy Evans. You know, she's the voice of God. Let me tell you biblically, okay, biblically. Every employer that you have should be as you're working for God. I mean, that's the way it goes. That's why I was always the best. And what I did, not because I was, you know, the most talented, or because I worked the hardest and I tried the best. I used to talk to you when I do my videos in the back aisle about how I'm going to vacuum the store and how I'm going to clean the toilets, you know, so that people can use the bathroom and it's nice. I always worked. They're paying my bills. They are. It's like I'm doing it onto them. And then they're like, oh, you're married? Oh, your husband died after having an affair and humiliating you, and you kept it together and you did everything and you tried so hard to keep the family together, and you're married now and you're happy. Oh, but we don't like him, even though Rachel Lamb, you should follow. All of these texts from Susie. Oh, you look so great together. Oh, I love you so much. I think it's so great. All of this stuff. Suspect. It's suspect. You can't say people are covering up this kind of abuse. Joni is not in jail. Whoever this other person is, do you know that he was probably so messed up about all this that he's like, I'll take a lie detector. This guy, who all they got, by the way, is that she was changing into her bathing suit. And I guess he was, you know, near the room or in the room. I don't know. But they saw him going up and they followed him. So what did they catch? You know, did he know? Maybe he was going to the bathroom. Was she changing in the bathroom and he didn't know? And he said, oh, I'm sorry, because he walked in. What is going on? How are you all out there? There's this podcast, these two cute kids. It's like the Wake Up and Bake Up or something. Not saying that they're high. I don't know what the name of it is. They're meatheads and they're young. And they're having so much fun making jokes about this. I guess it was the guy's birthday, and his wife is like, happy birthday. Too bad you're not going to get your job at Daystar. He. This family is broken. Broken in a way that I can sort of understand, but not fully. Not fully. They went into that meeting after they refused. It breaks my heart thinking about this because she loved Jonathan so much, you know? He was like the apple of Marcus's eye, you know, he's such a great golfer, just a fine young man. I remember when his dad would call my office and Jonathan was there and he said, yes, sir. And I always thought, what a really polite, kind young man. I loved them. But man, I got to be honest. And I don't give a crap how many you know, are going to say things in the comment section that's, you know, because you're meatheads and you're not following after the truth of praying about it and seeking more. Maybe something happened. Maybe not. But what they did and how they went about it, wrong. So Joni, you know, seeing that there's a huge rift, because let's face it, right? Jonathan knew he was going to be president right before Marcus dies. Marcus says, you're no longer president. He said he was going to give it to Joni, which he should have. I don't know why on earth he would be like, yes, succeeding me will be my son and not my wife, who literally helped build the channel, who literally was the face of Daystar and was literally the most talented and the best, you know, period. Like, people love Joni because she was really kind of a down-to-earth, really kind of a sweet woman. You don't want to mess with her, though. You know, you don't want to mess with her. You don't want to mess with her, though. I don't know, this whole story just really just breaks my heart. And watching her do her video where she's going on about how these accusations are false. Anybody who read the report, I started asking questions for Julie. I said, why no medical exam? Why didn't they release it? You know why? Because they did bring her to the doctor, and Rachel Lamb has all that stuff. You should look it up. I'm not going to discount that something happened. I'm just telling you flat out, you all need to do a better job before you giggle and have a good old time making fun of things. Like I'm watching this Wake Up, Bake Up, podcast, and they're sharing some of Rachel's, stuff. And they're like making excuses as to why Susie would do that. Not the fact that this is complete opposition to the story we're hearing now. And then you listen to they brought a recorder in to dupe their mother. You could hear Jonathan, you could hear Susie asking questions. Who told you that? Well, why did they tell you that? Why can't you tell me, Mom? And they know they're recording. They're trying to set their mother up for that gotcha moment. And the best they got is Jimmy Evans saying, your mother is the voice of God to you. Meaning she's your covering, meaning she's your boss. She tells you to do something. And this is what Jimmy says, as long as it's not sin, you do it. She says, read a viewer's comment on the air. And then Susie, I aired this on my X. By the way, follow me at JacobIsrael71. I aired this. You could hear her. This doesn't sound like somebody who's scared and being spiritually abused. Doesn't sound that way at all. It sounds like somebody who was upset that her son wasn't president anymore, who was upset that I guess something happened with her family, maybe not being hired anymore, who was upset that she lost her job because she probably is, and look at where it ended up. Joni wanted them. Now the big thing is like, who asked for non-disclosure agreements? Let me tell you who asked for a mother who wants to make sure and thinks and worries that the children are going to do something that's going to literally damage their future, their children's future, and their family. Forget about money. It wasn't about money. It doesn't seem like this is about money. To me, it seems like it's about family. And it seems like this chicken hawk reporter, that's what I feel like she is. I feel like she's a chicken hawk, At no point did she say, maybe we should just go with the Jimmy Evans voice of God thing, and maybe we should go with the chiropractor thing. Maybe we should leave your daughter out of it so that for the rest of your daughter's life, she isn't going to be publicly stained by something that maybe happened or maybe not, because it's inconclusive. And ironically, so I asked the question, was CPS ever called? Oh yeah, in 2024. And then I'm like, oh, okay, who did it? And I look at the report. CPS was called by others. Wasn't even called by them. Now here's the irony. CPS actually does a little investigation in this, and then they realize you should have kept your daughter out of this because there's going to be an emotional toll that's going to be taken on this child. That's what I was told by the forensic evaluator. If it happened, she's going to, never be okay with it. Studies show, and in all the cases, and she was the top one in New York. So we're talking like, this is not like some, this is not some Christian counselor, okay? This is somebody who deals with this on a regular basis. Studies show that, children are very easy to, your mind will protect you and you'll be able to live a wonderful, healthy life unless you relitigate it, which is what they're doing, which, by the way, is abuse. I'm not calling them abusers. I'm calling the chicken hawk reporter who probably talked them into it, probably took advantage of a devastated couple, because most likely they are devastated. Maybe Susie did believe this. I'm not saying she didn't. She brought it to the doctor. She did. And I guess the report was that she had constipation and eczema and then no dairy was the response I saw from the text that Rachel Lamb shared. I know what it's like to be scared and not know. But the only evidence they had was that, who knows why he was going up there? Was it the bathroom? Was it a bedroom? Who knows? Who knows? Court of public opinion, right? That's why I just did the show. Resist the current thing. You all got to stop following the crowd. This is what Jesus did, right? What did Jesus do? What happened when he told people, you got to do better? You think I wanted to come on here and do this? You think I want to do this? I know what a lot of people are going to say. Marcus Rogers, Ruslan, I think he took his video down. All of these big name Christian influencers, all quick to be like, this is terrible, this spiritual abuse is terrible. This is a terrible story and a tragedy and an opportunity. And an opportunity that, Jonathan and Susie, if you're listening, call your mom. If you're listening, okay? Call your mom. And call this reporter and say, you shouldn't have talked us into this. You shouldn't have talked us into this. This reporter, she's got like, what, 50,000 followers on X, for crying out loud? I'm in conversations with like celebrities on X, okay? Like, who's this reporter? This is the best you got with your story? Chicken hawks. In the name of God. It's disgusting. The whole thing is disgusting, but it's an opportunity. So listen, I'm asking all of you to, not follow the crowd. Not just with this story. Listen, I got no eggs in this basket, all right? I got no eggs in this basket. If anything, I'd like to be back in touch with my good friend Lane, which I already texted him and he texted me because I feel bad. Happy Thanksgiving. This is my buddy. We used to do some funny videos together. Man, I loved working there. Man, I loved the Lamb family. And I'm not talking about Marcus. I'm talking about Joni's side of it. I loved her mom. I loved her dad. These are not the people that would do something like this. These are not the people that would. You know what would have happened? Because it happened in what? 2020? And now it's coming out now? I mean, if you're concerned about the cover-up so much, what the hell are you recording and worrying about the fact that they got married? Don't you think the bigger issue would be? The whole thing seems so sus to me. And then I guess their big thing is like, oh, well, we reopened the case because we just found out that we were told that everything was clear from this Christian counselor thing. You were told that it was clear? It's your daughter. Why don't you go to CPS? What do you mean you were told? We were told. There were interviews that took place. This is the problem. Sometimes you got to use the proper channels. And they didn't use proper channels. And it sounds to me like this is a relationship that went sour. And it sounds to me, if I'm being honest, because this is the wild thing, is that Jonathan wrote this email and they shared like an excerpt of it. And I guess it was in relation to the fact that they went in, set up their mother, and taped all these conversations. And this whole voice of God thing came out, which is that's their big thing, spiritual abuse. And yet, I mean, it is scriptural. It's like, it is. You're supposed to respect the authorities. God places the people on top of you for a reason. Just like I have to answer to, who do I answer? I answer to God. Okay, but it's like when I was working in another place, I'd have to answer to the mattress store. I got to answer to them. And when they abused me, you know what I did? I quit. I didn't go to the press. I quit when they weren't treating me right. But Joni was like desperately asking. That whole thing could have been resolved with her saying, all right, I'm going to separate my personal feelings from, my job, my employment. She could have said, if I have to read something in the future, I will. She could have said, I'm really sorry that this hurts you, Joni. I know you've been through a lot and you've been really good to me. Because from what I understand, she was really good to Susie. She was like setting Susie up to be the first lady of Daystar. You want to talk about like feeling like how it can be betrayed, but this is what happens in families. This is what happens in families all the time. But here I am, 53 years old, right? And my mother-in-law's going to be here any minute for Thanksgiving, who I love. When we first got married, Dan and I, it was bad. It was bad. We even had a separation agreement drawn up, We had a separation agreement drawn up at one point in time. It got ugly. I've talked about this on other shows. Because things happen. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. But you know what God can do with mistakes? You ever see that beautiful art form where you take the broken thing and what you do is you take gold and you make it beautiful and it becomes even stronger? God can take this situation that's going on at Daystar right now and make it even stronger. So I'm putting something out there, a little bit of faith. I'm putting this out there because you know what? I know Joni's a forgiving person. How crazy is that, right? You're all saying what a terrible monster she is. I know Joni will probably give Jonathan and Susie their job back because she loves her children. I don't know. I haven't talked to her in, 13, 14 years, But I got a vibe. I mean, it sounds to me like the story very clearly is they're distraught. There's a rift in the family. They got scared, somehow got in touch with this chicken hawk reporter who, next thing you know, they're recording conversations. Who does that? And now it's like, we're going to reveal it. We're exposing all of you. And that's the best they got. And Susie's nonstop online. Because I think that right now, I think personally, from seeing all of these all of this, like really doubling down on I want justice for my child. You got it at police and CPS, and why didn't you handle it when it happened? Why didn't you do it behind closed doors? Why did you bring it to the internet when supposedly the chiropractor assaulted you? So you got the voice of God. You got enough. You had enough. Which tells me maybe you're just trying to hurt people. Maybe you're looking for like scorched earth. But I also think that maybe God's saying something to Daystar. Maybe saying something to Joni, saying something to the whole family. Right? And now, I think we have a new day on us. And I think that I feel like things are going to be better. I really do. I'm praying for the family. I want you to pray for the family. And once again, I'm not negating that something maybe happened. Okay, if you think it's somebody, do what the value. Stay away from the couple. Stay away from them. Don't go near anybody whoever this Pete guy is, which is so freaking obvious. It's devastating, this guy. He's like, I'll take a lie detector. And then you got like brothers and sisters fighting with each other. It's like, oh my goodness. And today's Thanksgiving. And I decided to do this show now. For the last couple of days, I've been hemming and hawing about this. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I'm just going to follow my heart and I'm going to follow what the Lord tells me to do. And I feel like God told me to do this and, let the cards fall where they may. Whatever. It's not like YouTube's paying me a lot of money. All right. But those of you who do love me and love the fact that it is a little weird, I put out the whole thing with the whip and I say it's coming and then boom, we got all this stuff. But that's what happens on this show all the time. You know why? Because Christ says, I want you to be my witness. And that's what we are, right? So you want to support the channel? Get yourself an I Am a Witness. Sure, Revelation 11:11. God breathes life into, right? That's the thing. The witnesses, they're dead. Everything's on. And then God brings life into them and the whole world is in awe. That's us. Let God restore your broken relationships today, okay? And for you jerks that are going to leave dummy comments, all right, in there, I forgive you. You don't know any better. Try to resist the current thing, will you? All right, I love each and every one of you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
The teachers teach for hire. The evangelists speak of either no responsibility or infinite fire. For gain they remain, for name they claim the truth while proving to be liars. And I, Lord, I feel like a spider and a giant seeking day and night and feeling like I'm never gonna find it. Because your truth, oh Lord, few seem to wanna buy it. They build out of the reputations they've killed a kingdom that will become a funeral pyre. For the behavior of those who claim to be God, I have truly grown tired. When will you show the world if they be corrupt they will be fired? Or else, how will they know your kingdom in this life? They never know until this type of behavior they retire. And I, Lord, I feel like a spider and a giant seeking day and night.